If you are passionate about pigment, you are my kind of person and you're in the right place. Today, I'm going to show you a cat face study that I did, just a zoomed in section of a cat's eyes and nose. I love doing these studies. I think they're super helpful. I encourage everybody who wants to level up their skills to do it. I start with my sketch on pastel mat. This is just a smaller piece that I've cut down. This tutorial is an overview. I'm not showing you every pencil mark. Right now I have one eye done and I will show you more detail the second eye. But right now let's work on the fur. We start with a mid-tone and then I'm putting on a little bit lighter fur over top of that mid-tone. And I'm going in with the markings that I can see on the cat's face and getting in that reddish brown. This is a Derwent pencil and it's a dark purple. I really like using dark purples for shadows or my black areas. And then I'll blacken them up as necessary with my black pastel pencils. But I like starting out with purple. Here I'm getting that under fur, that dark fur in with that same Derwent purple pencil. Here I'm going in with my soft unison black pastel and doing that dark space above the nose and just little taps. The texture is little. You don't want to be doing large strokes where it's teeny tiny. The strokes you make, how long they are or how short they are very important. You need to look at your fur. If this is a short furred cat, has a very short coat. So I'm not using long strokes. I can't disguise long strokes as short fur later on. You have to start with short strokes from the very beginning. And if it's long fur, you have to start with long fur. That's a very, very important to get an animal to look realistic, is pay attention to the size. On the nose, the fur is always going to be smaller, especially as you get closer down. That's why I'm just tapping when I'm right next to the nose, is that fur gets shorter and shorter and shorter. The length of the strokes that you make with your soft pastels or your pastel pencil is what is making the texture. That is what's giving the illusion of fur. So it's very important to pay attention to those strokes. And here I'm going in with an orange, just getting that base down in between all of those dark little spots for that bottom of the nose, the bridge of the nose. Going in with my soft pastel, I'm putting in more, and you just see they're just tiny little marks, I tap my soft pastel when I need to for just the teeniest, tiniest marks, and it's just layering upon layering, like starting with the orange and building up to the lighter colors. And I like to twirl my pastel around, so I'll start off and it'll be kind of a sharp edge so I can make that mark, and you'll just see me twisting it in my hands, and I'm just twirling the edge of that pastel around so then on the next side it's sharp, and I'm just coming around using all the sharp edges and essentially making more as I keep twisting it around. And here I'm going in with that same Derwent purple pencil to get in the mouth. And I'm laying down this dark right here, usually on the face. If you notice right next to the mouth, there'll always be this darker skin that you can see, and usually it'll get super light. You'll have a lot of white or very light yellow fur around the mouth. But right there next to it is that dark skin that you can always see through it. So make sure to lay that down first. You don't want to lay down your light fur and then try to get that dark skin in between. Get those darks in first, and then that light fur, because it's pastel, you don't have to worry. It goes right on top of your dark. Here's my black Stabilo Carbothello pastel pencil. just getting in the nostrils and really defining that nose more. And as you can see here on the face, I have laid down that light blue pastel. I didn't go right in with white. I like to use white very sparingly, and you want to start with a light blue or a yellow, depends on how cool or warm your reference photo is, and then put your whites on very last as highlights. But it's not going to look realistic or like that it has any depth if it's just a flat white. There needs to be a darker color underneath. And here I'm going in. Derwent has a great selection of pinks and purples, and I went through and I've just bought them on their own. And I didn't buy a Derwent set. I just bought all the pinks and purples because I feel like the other sets are really lacking a good selection of pinks, and the Derwent range has quite a few. Their pastel pencils aren't my favorite, but they do the job. Just layering up this nose, you'll see it's just different layers, pinks and then peaches on top of one another, just to give it that smooth look. You never want to just go in with one color and be like, this is the color I see. You need to think about what's that color underneath, what's that mid-tone I should start with. Then you want to get in your darks, and then you want to get in your lights. It's all a layering process so that it looks real. It's not just one color. Even if that's all you can see, you need to train yourself to be like, oh, I'm going to start with this, and I build up. I'm going to pick this mid-tone. I see this bright pink. Well, I'm going to go in here with more of a muted coral and build up to that. Now I'm just putting in some more hairs, as you can see, just building on top of what I already have. Getting in these reddish brown facial markings. And right away, you always want to make sure that you're putting down your marks, not only the mark size, as I mentioned earlier, but the direction of the fur. Is your mark going in the right direction? You don't want to be doing horizontal marks when it's on a diagonal. And you have to pay close attention, especially in the face, because you'll notice by the nose, hairs start going in many different directions. They're going to start diagonal and then going up the face. You have to pay attention in your reference photo. What way is the hair going? And you don't want to just think this is the base, I'll lay it down however I want. From the very beginning, you want to be going in the right direction that the fur should be laying in. If not, you're just going to fight it in your subsequent layers, and nobody needs that headache. So just start in the direction from the very beginning, the correct direction of the fur, and that's just simply looking at your reference photo. It's very easy to tell what way that hair is lying, so what way you need to paint it on with your pastels. Getting in all these midtones around the eye. And if you're using pastel mat, you have a lot of room for layers. It is very nice for that. You don't have to worry that you're running out of room. Pastel mat is able to take very many layers. Just make sure you're using a light hand. When I started pastels, that was something I always have to remember. I still have to remember it some days. I tend to have a heavy hand. And just light is better because you can always add more. And taking the pastel off is a giant pain in the butt. So always use a light hand and just build, build, build. And now we're beginning the eye. I'm going to go in with this blue. The eye has a lot of green in it, but I'm putting down this blue as my mid-tone. This is going to be my base for the eye. Getting in the pupil. Outlining the eye. Most animal eyes are always rimmed in a very dark color, usually black, around it. The skin around the eye is usually a very dark black. But there's also this reflection down at the bottom usually, and it's a lighter reflection on the skin of that eye. And I like to use a blue or a very light purple to make that pop right there on the bottom edge of that eye. And I just take my blue and go right through that black that I laid down. Here I'm coming in with my Stabilo Carbothello. This is like a seafoam green. It is a super pretty color. Just layering it in. And here's another lighter blue, also Stabilo Carbothello. I'm going in with a dark green up top. There's always a cast shadow at the top of the eyes where that just the overhang from the fur is just casting a shadow on that eye. And so I'm trying to layer in all those shadows. Getting in some brighter blues that I see at the bottom of the eye. The most important thing is just to remember that you're not just going to hurry and get this done. It's not just one color. You're building up all these beautiful colors, and that's what's making this eye. That's what's going to make it look so cool at the end. So be patient and enjoy it. You can see at first it always looks kind of crazy, but just know you're going to bring it all together. You're doing these layers. It's all going to come together. Have faith in the process. I like to use my Unison soft pastels for the highlights. It just really makes it pop. And I'm not blending everything with my finger. Sometimes I'm just using another pastel pencil, and the pastel pencil itself is doing the blending work for me. I'm going in and getting some of these highlights on. These highlights are what really bring it together. Pay attention to the highlights that are in your reference photo. Sometimes they don't even make sense, but place them how you see them in the reference photo. I promise it's going to look good. And there's that eye, and just getting in the rest of this fur around the face, layering in that top coat to bring it all together. If you love pastel, subscribe. I'll teach you what I know, give you tips and tricks that I've learned. Thanks for watching.